this cocky gesture that made me buy a big bore kit. We started by pulling the cylinder head off the engine. The parts, pulled the plug, cam cover, got this stuff off, the cam gears off, this little cover, my rocker arms. Pretty much empty now. Pulled everything out of there. Here's a stock Grom camshaft we purchased, only to find out it doesn't fit in the 2020 Vader engine, and besides that, the lobes have less lift than the stock Vader camshaft. The Grom cam has a decompression device, the Vader cam does not. We did try to modify our stock Vader cam. Ultimately, we purchased the TB race cam for big valve heads. You can see the larger lobes of the race cam on the right, and one thing we had to do is swap out the small bearing on the top of the picture there. You have to swap the bearings in order for the race cam to work in the Vader engine. Kind of surprised to see valve reliefs in it. I knew the stock Grom had a dished piston, and an aftermarket piston was slightly domed with valve reliefs. But it appears that not only does the stock Vader engine have a bigger camshaft, but also the upgraded piston with valve reliefs. We are a small engine performance shop, so even though we're new to this particular engine, we couldn't pass up the opportunity to do some work on the cylinder head. So we did some light port work, nothing too crazy in there. We milled the cylinder head to increase the compression a little bit. Thank you to the gentleman from Mini Bike Action for showing us that we can plug that hole in the exhaust port, which is no longer needed for our purposes. The hole leads to the EGR valve, which has been removed, and brings us to this plate. Many people buy a block-off plate like this, but we just took our stock plate, cut the tube off of it, pinched the end of the tube, and then we welded the tube closed. And that was our quick and easy solution. We cut the valve seats with a 3-angle valve job, and then we lapped in our valves to make sure that we get a good valve seal. To be honest, we aren't looking for huge gains here. We're just making small improvements on what we have, and we're interested in seeing what kind of results we can achieve with this Vader engine. So now we move on to the valves and the valve springs and uncover some more interesting information. The stock Vader has larger valves than the stock Grom. We purchased this Honda Grom big valve kit, and the 27mm intake valve in the kit is actually the same size as the intake valve in our stock Vader cylinder head, and the 21mm exhaust valve in the kit is actually smaller than our 23mm exhaust valve in our Vader. With the cylinder head work complete, we move on to our 141cc big bore kit. The 141cc kit was the only kit we could find that would fit the Vader engine. The other kits were for the Honda Grom engine, and this is the kit here that we purchased from TBPARTS. We're not going to get into the details of the installation of all these parts. There's a fantastic video on YouTube from Partzilla where they show very detailed step-by-step information on doing a big bore kit. There are videos on a Grom, but a lot of it applies to the Vader as well. But while we had our engine apart, we powder coated a few parts. We got the engine put back together, and it was time to fire it up for the first time to see how it sounds and runs, and see if we need to retune or rejet the carburetor. The only external indicator that we've done some work to this engine is this TBPARTS logo on the side of the cylinder. Other than that, no one would really know that there was work done to this engine. Not sure if that's really important to anyone or not, but I thought we'd mention that. So we did all this work to our Vader engine. We spent some time, we spent some money, and the big question is, was it worth it? And the answer is yes and no. It sort of depends on your expectations and really what you're trying to achieve by installing a 141cc big bore kit on the 125cc Vader engine. The Vader is faster with these modifications, but to be real honest, it's not significant. So if you're looking for a significant improvement, this would not be the route to go. And the reason I say that is because we do a lot of work on 212cc Predator engines and engines similar to that, the Honda GX200 and the clones of that engine. And if we were to take a 212cc Predator and put a 275-inch lift cam in it, port the head, mill the head to increase the compression, put a VM22 carb on it, you know, all this work that we did to the Vader engine, the 212cc Predator, it responds really well to those modifications. There is a huge difference between a stock 212cc Predator and a 212cc Predator that's been modified in the same manner that this Vader engine has been modified. Huge difference. In this situation though, with the Vader engine, there is not a huge difference. There is an increase in power and performance, but it's not significant. So, and you know, in our situation, we weren't looking for a significant difference. If we wanted a significant difference, we've already decided that the ZS 190cc engine would be the way to go. Going from 125cc up to 190cc, plus getting the 5-speed transmission, we feel that would be certainly the best way to go for a more significant difference in power. However, that's a lot more money. You know, the 190cc engine costs a whole lot more than the few parts that we purchased for this Vader engine. So I feel as though the modifications we made to our Vader engine and the slight improvements that we achieved, they accomplished our goals that we were looking for with our Vader engine. As this CRF 150R gets around us in the corner, you can see that I can't close the gap on Blaze. I have no power advantage. We're pretty much even. On some of these, he slowly pulls away. I got a little more corner speed here on this one, but I just can't close that gap. Ignore that piece of fairing falling off of his janky bike. But we come around the corner, our corner speed's very similar, and then right here you can see there's no advantage. Both bikes are making very similar power, and you know, it's easy to make that assumption in just these short couple clips, but we rode for hours on the track, and it's apparent that the power is very, very similar between our two bikes, and we have the same modifications at this point. And so we have some traffic here, so we both come off this corner about the same speed, and as we pass our buddy here, I'm not closing the gap on Blaze, and you would think right here if I had more power I'd be able to gain on him, and it's just not happening. The bikes are very evenly matched as far as power, and our skill level is pretty closely matched as well, as you can see. Here's another example, coming out of this corner, quick look over the shoulder, and just can't get anything on them right there. So it was hard to set up for a pass because our bikes and our skill level were very closely matched. And then we get passed by a little girl on a 65. Now we get to see how my bike performed against Blaze's bike after the modifications. And so right there you can see we came off that corner together and I pulled ahead of him. And here we are almost coming together in that corner. He points at me laughing, I'm sure. But as you can see, my bike has a little more power now. I'm able to close that gap a little bit. Blaze is wearing the GoPro now, and in these couple of clips you can see I could just slightly pull away from him, whereas before I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to close the gap on him. And this point of view demonstrates that I do have a slight advantage in straightaway speed. So if these are the type of gains you're looking for your Honda Grom or your Boom Vader, and you're not up to tackling the job yourself, You can reach out to us at sales@affordablegokarts.com. Otherwise, you can check out the links in the description, tackle a job yourself, and if you get stuck with anything, have any questions, you can reach out to us at tech@affordablegokarts.com.